I drove nearly 2 hours to get home, an expensive bottle of wine resting on the passenger seat as a dutiful party offering. The highway unspooled beneath a dull December sky, gray and heavy, my fingers stiff around the steering wheel of my dented sedan. Even though I'd moved out years ago and now lived alone in a rented one-bedroom miles away, the moment I crossed the threshold of the Henderson estate, my identity shifted. I was no longer the youngest daughter. I was staff. My mother, Alara, plucked the gift bag from my hand before I could set down my purse. She didn't thank me. Her gaze skimmed over me the way one might inspect a late delivery expected, tolerated, unimportant. Go to the kitchen. The prime rib isn't done yet. My back hurts, she said flatly, already turning away. Her silk blouse whispered as she disappeared into the living room. I stood there in my coat, stomach twisting. Christmas Eve began not with warmth or welcome, but with silence. In the kitchen, the massive slab of prime rib lay on the counter, still half wrapped in butcher paper. I reached for the apron hanging on its familiar hook, the same one I'd worn since I was 16, and tied it around my waist. Salt, pepper, oven to 450, sear, lower the heat. Check the thermometer. Muscle memory carried me through it. Through the cracked doorway, I watched my family, father Thaddeus, mother Alara, sister Seraphina, brother Caspian settled comfortably at the dining table. Candlelight bathed them in gold, like a holiday catalog come to life. They raised wine glasses and laughed, carving into thick slices of fragrant prime rib. The sound drifted toward me like music from a party I wasn't invited to attend. I stood alone beside the cold kitchen table, checking the pecan pie one final time. Golden crust, perfectly crimped edges that had taken 20 painstaking minutes to shape. They had already begun eating, without me. When the timer chimed and I pulled the pie from the oven, I heard silverware scraping plates, satisfied murmurs filling the room. I wiped my hands on the apron and stepped into the dining room. My plate told the truth, not the tender center cuts I'd labored over but burnt scraps. Charred edges shoved aside beside a spoonful of mashed potatoes, leftovers, what remained after the best was taken. The meat was blackened and tough, the kind normally tossed away. My throat tightened. Seraphina sliced into a thick, rosy piece, juices pooling on her plate. Caspian stacked 3 slices high. My father chewed slowly, nodding with approval. My mother glanced at me. Eat quickly. I want to watch a movie at 8. I lifted my fork. The meat was bitter, dry. I swallowed fast, forcing the food down in under 5 minutes, tears burning behind my eyes. The potatoes stuck in my throat like glue. No one asked about my job. No one asked about the drive. No one said Merry Christmas. When they migrated to the living room for the movie, I was left behind with the aftermath plates smeared with grease, wine glasses marked with lipstick, napkins crumpled like discarded excuses. I stacked dishes in the sink, planning to wash them later. The kitchen looked like a war zone. I arranged 5 forks and 5 of Alara's special Christmas dessert plates, white porcelain dotted with red and green onto a tray. She'd made it clear those plates were sacred. I sliced the pecan pie carefully, judging each piece so no one could accuse me of favoritism. A scoop of vanilla ice cream crowned each slice, melting slowly into the warm filling. The tray weighed heavily in my trembling arms. The living room glowed only from the television. A romantic comedy played, canned laughter filling the space. They sprawled across the furniture, father in his recliner, mother stretched on the chaise, Seraphina and Caspian draped across the sofa. I handed out dessert silently. No one looked at me. When I reached Seraphina, she didn't lift her eyes from her phone. She flicked her hand dismissively. Sera, here's your crush. The pie flipped. Ice cream splattered across the floor and the Persian rug, Alara's $3,000 rug. The plate shattered into pieces. My heart stopped. Oh my God, Heidi. Serafina shrieked, yanking her feet onto the couch. She didn't apologize. She simply gestured for me to clean it up, still scrolling, already reaching for another slice. So I wouldn't be eating dessert. I whispered that I'd clean it. No one answered. I fetched a rag and dustpan, hands shaking. Kneeling on the rug, apron still tied, scrubbing cream from wool, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A Facebook notification. Caspian. I opened it. A video. 10 seconds long. Me on my knees. Serafina pointing at me with her fork, laughing. The angle made it look like I was bowing. Caption. The maid is acting deep again. Cinderella wannabe. Help is hard to find. 12 likes already. Caspian giggled, showing Serafina. She laughed so hard she nearly choked. My mother glanced over, expression blank. My father sipped his beer and called out, amused, Heidi was born to serve. Right, laughter filled the room. Even the TV laughed, and something inside me broke clean in half. Instead of arguing, I deliberately dropped the filthy rag onto Caspian's costly porcelain plate that lay flat on the rug. The very plate he'd placed there to record me. It hit with a soggy thud, cream and pie, filling spreading messily over the flawless white surface. Then I turned and headed upstairs without hesitation. You still have to clean that up. You can't just leave the plate on the floor like that. Serafina shrieked behind me, her voice sharp with outrage. I didn't look back. I kept climbing, each step heavy and final. As I reached the bend in the staircase, I faintly heard Caspian soothing her. It's fine. She'd clean it up later. There's no need to get so upset. But I already knew the truth. I wasn't cleaning anything. Not tonight. Not ever again. I didn't go to my bedroom, and I didn't stop at the top of the stairs. I walked straight down the hallway to the guest room where I'd left my overnight bag. The bag I'd packed assuming I'd stay the night. Maybe even through Christmas Day. How foolish that seemed now, just hours later. I grabbed the handbag I hadn't even unpacked since arriving and went straight out through the back exit, passing through the mudroom. My coat was still downstairs, but I didn't bother going back for it. The cold December air sliced through my thin sweater as I crossed the driveway. I slid into my old, battered 2008 Honda Civic. The one with the dented passenger door, started the engine, and drove directly toward Aunt Rowena's house an hour away. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, not from the cold, but from fury, shame, and the sudden, razor-sharp clarity about what my life had turned into. The highway stretched dark and nearly empty. Christmas lights flickered in the windows of passing houses, normal homes. Happy homes, families where the youngest daughter wasn't treated like hired help. By the time I pulled into Aunt Rowena's driveway, it was almost 10 o'clock. The porch light glowed warmly, and through the front window I could see the soft shimmer of their Christmas tree. Uncle. Silas opened the door before I even knocked. He must have noticed my headlights. Taking in my expression and the bag in my hand, he didn't bombard me with questions. He simply said the kindest words I'd ever heard. Come in. We've got eggnog. I broke down right there on the doorstep. Aunt Rowena appeared behind him, worry lining her face. She wrapped me in a hug that smelled of cinnamon and pine, and I cried into her shoulder while Uncle Silas quietly carried my bag inside. They didn't demand explanations. They sat me on the couch, tucked a fleece blanket around me, and placed a mug of spiked eggnog into my hands. The Christmas lights blurred into soft reds, greens, and golds through my cheers. When you're ready, Aunt Rowena said gently, squeezing my hand. So I told them everything. The burned meat, the ruined pie, the video, my father's words, the laughter. Uncle Silas's jaw clenched. Aunt Rowena's eyes filled with tears. I knew Alara could be cold, she said quietly, but I didn't realize it was this bad. She's always been like this, I whispered. I just kept thinking that if I tried harder, if I helped more, maybe she'd... My voice cracked. Maybe she'd love me. Oh, sweetheart, Aunt Rowena murmured, pulling me close again. This was never about you. It's never been about you. That night, in the small, quiet guest room, sleep wouldn't come. I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying every slight and humiliation, every moment I'd been made to feel invisible. Every time I'd swallowed my pride because I believed that was what family meant. At 2 in the morning, I finally opened my laptop. It was time to confront reality. The Henderson family thought they controlled me through the joint bank account opened when I was 16. My mother had insisted for emergencies, she'd said, so we can help you if you need it. But the help had only ever gone one way. For years, I'd deposited my paychecks there, transferring money for utilities, groceries, and whatever other expenses my mother claimed she couldn't manage. What they didn't know was that I wasn't that gullible girl anymore. 3 years earlier, I'd quietly opened a high-yield savings account at an entirely different bank and kept it secret. Every bonus, every overtime check, every tax refund went straight into it. Money my family knew nothing about. The screen showed the balance, $28,400. I stared at it for a long time. Each dollar represented restraint, sacrifice, and a future I was slowly building on my own. I switched to the joint account, the one where I usually left around $2,000 for family bills. Balance, $0. I'd already withdrawn every cent of my contribution while sitting in Aunt Rowena's driveway, fingers moving quickly over my phone. Transfer all funds, confirm, done. $2,000 back under my control when my laptop clock showed. Nearly 3 a.m., I checked my phone one last time. Somewhere back home, they were probably enjoying their movie night and pecan pie with vanilla ice cream. A text from Mom glowed on the screen, sent hours earlier. What are you doing? Why aren't the dishes washed? Another followed. Heidi, this is unacceptable. Come downstairs right now. No one even realized I'd left. Maybe she still believed I was the obedient little girl who would creep downstairs after everyone slept, too afraid to resist. The thought twisted something in my chest. Had I really lived like that? The answer was painfully clear, yes, for years. But that night, wrapped in a borrowed nightgown and lit by my laptop's glow, I knew that version of me was gone. Cinderella was dead. There was only Heidi now, someone who controlled her own money, someone who was done. I turned off my phone and finally slept out the next morning. The peace shattered when my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages flooded in the second I turned it on. Mom's text from 7 a.m. scolded me for leaving rudely, for ruining Christmas by abandoning a messy kitchen. There was no mention of the video, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. I read it once, then deleted it. Aunt Rowena made pancakes. Uncle Silas read the paper, occasionally peering over it with quiet concern. They didn't push me. They simply let me exist. I stayed 3 days, 3 calm, gentle days where no one ordered me around or treated me like staff. When the weekend ended, I returned to my modest 1-bedroom apartment 40 minutes from work. It wasn't fancy, but it was mind dot as I unpacked. My phone buzzed again. Serafina, no apology. No concern. Just greed dripping from every word. Why was the card declined at the spa? Didn't you deposit your paycheck? I need $800 now. My blood turned to ice. The joint account debit card. The account I'd emptied days earlier. I stared at the message, tempted to explain, to soften it, to apologize out of habit. Instead, I replied coldly, that is a joint account. I withdrew my portion. Good luck with the spa bill. I hit send and set the phone down. It rang seconds later. I declined it again. Then the texts exploded accusations from everyone: theft, irresponsibility, betrayal. I read them all as they poured in. Words like selfish and ungrateful flashing across the screen. Then I blocked them one by one. Serafina, Caspian, Dad, Mom after a long pause. Silence followed. That evening around 9, while I reheated soup in my pajamas, someone began pounding on my door. Heidi, open up. My mother's voice, along with Serafina's. They'd driven to my apartment. They screamed and banged, accusing me of hiding and stealing. My heart raced as the soup boiled over, forgotten. A neighbor shouted for them to stop. Serafina screamed back. The pounding intensified. I grabbed my phone and called 911, hands shaking. When the sirens arrived, the noise stopped. I peeked through the blinds. 2 police cars, officers speaking to my mother and sister. A calm knock followed. Ma'am? Police. I opened the door just a crack, the chain still fastened. The officer standing there looked young, maybe 30, with gentle eyes.
Are you Heidi Henderson? Yes. Are you all right? I'm okay. I just want them to leave. The officer gave a brief nod. They're leaving now. We've informed them that this behavior constitutes harassment. If they return, call us immediately. Understood. Okay. Once the police ensured my mother and sister had gone and confirmed I was safe, they left as well. I stood by the window and watched the patrol cars disappear, their lights fading into the night. The silence afterward felt unreal. A few minutes later, there was another knock, gentler this time. I checked the peephole. A woman around my age stood there holding a plate. I opened the door cautiously. Hi, she said with a kind, sympathetic smile. I'm Jane. I live in 3B. I heard all the noise earlier and just wanted to check on you. I brought cookies and hot cocoa. I burst into tears for the second time in 3 days. Jane came inside, set the plate down, and poured the cocoa. We sat together in my tiny living room. She didn't pry or interrogate. She simply listened as I gave her the short version. Family problems, money, boundaries. Good for you, she said firmly. Calling the police took courage. After she left, I sat alone in the dim apartment, sipping cocoa and eating cookies. For the first time since Christmas Eve, the pain shifted into something else. Anger. Since they couldn't force me to open the door, they decided to attack where hurt most, my job. It began 2 days later. I was at work, trying to focus on presentation, when my work phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had tagged the company in a Facebook post. My stomach clenched as I opened it. Caspian had written a long, dramatic post accusing his sister of scamming the family and stealing retirement money, questioning how a company could employ someone with no moral integrity. Serafina shared it, adding her own venom. They rallied friends to bombard my company's page with fake reviews. Heidi is a scammer who steals from her own family. Disgusting character. Would never trust this business. My hands trembled as I scrolled. There were at least 20 comments, all from strangers, all attacking me. Then my desk phone rang. Heidi, can you come to conference room B? Linda from HR said. My heart dropped. The worst came the following morning. My father had called corporate headquarters directly, spinning a fabricated story about stolen retirement funds and demanding to speak to my supervisor. On my first day back after the holidays, HR called me into a meeting. Linda and my manager, Stephen, sat across from me. The conference room felt suffocating. Heidi, Linda said carefully, we received some troubling communications regarding you. Stephen leaned forward. Someone claiming to be your father contacted corporate yesterday. He made serious accusations of theft and fraud, and our social media accounts have been flooded with comments attacking your character. It's not true, I said, my voice barely audible. We're not accusing you, Linda said quickly, but we need to address the situation. The company's reputation is at stake. I understand, I replied hollowly, humiliation washing over me. Stephen sighed. We're issuing a formal warning. Please keep personal matters from impacting work. If this continues, further action may be necessary. I nodded, numb. Walking back to my desk felt surreal. A few co-workers glanced at me, then looked away. I sat down, stared at my screen, and fought tears. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Silas. Rowena and I want to help. Can you meet us for dinner tonight? There's someone I want you to meet. That evening, Uncle Silas drove me downtown to meet attorney Lysandra Vale, his high school best friend and a formidable lawyer specializing in family financial fraud. She's the best, he said confidently. Her office was sleek, all glass and steel. On the 7th floor, leather chairs and abstract art filled the reception area. Lysandra Vale herself was exactly what I needed. Early 50s, silver threaded through her hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her handshake was firm. Silas told me some of what's going on, she said as we Saturday, but I'd like to hear it from you. So I told her everything. The joint account, years of exploitation, Christmas Eve, the video, the harassment, the attack on my job. She listened without interruption, jotting notes occasionally. When I finished, she studied me. Do you have documentation? Of what? Bank records, proof of deposits, the video, harassing messages, calls to your employer. I do, I said. Statements, screenshots. The video is still online. HR documented my father's call. A slow smile crossed her face. Excellent. After reviewing everything, she was confident. This is textbook financial exploitation. You were a minor when the account was opened. You deposited regularly. They withdrew funds for personal use without consent. And the harassment campaign, especially contacting your employer, qualifies as intentional infliction of emotional distress. Hope stirred. So we have a case? An excellent one. She paused. But we need to discuss costs. My heart sank. I charge $350 an hour, she continued. Cases like this run between $25,000 and $30,000. The number hit hard. I hesitated. I only have a little over $20,000 in savings. If this drags on, doubt crept in. Bankruptcy before justice. Meanwhile, my family probably believed I was beaten, silent, warned by HR, scared back into submission. They thought I'd crawl back, apologize, and resume my role. That arrogance was their mistake. Uncle Silas rested a hand on my shoulder. Rowena and I will contribute $10,000. I can't. You can and you will, he said firmly. That's what real family does. Lysandra leaned forward. I'll offer a flat fee, $25,000. No hourly billing. No surprises. I blinked. Flat fee? Yes. And I expect damages of $100,000 to $150,000. Possibly more. My hesitation vanished. Okay, I said steadily. Let's do it. Good, Lysandra said. One condition. Don't block them. Let them keep texting. Every message is evidence. That night, I unblocked my family. The messages poured in. I screenshot every one and saved them under a folder labeled evidence. Lying in the dark, I smiled. Let them keep talking. They were building my case for me, letting them slam into it. I gave a small nod, folded my hands neatly in my lap. 3 days had passed since Aunt Rowena's house. 3 days since Uncle Silas had made that call. 3 days since I stopped being the family's doormat and officially became the plaintiff. 2 causes of action, Lysandra said, sliding a stapled packet across the desk toward me. Defamation of character, because they publicly labeled you a thief and a parasite, and tortious interference with employment, because Caspin's little social media crusade was clearly intended to damage your professional standing. The words stared back at me from the page, formal, legal, undeniable. What happens now? I asked. Lysandra's smile sharpened. Discovery, the beautiful and brutal phase where everyone is forced to show their cards. She leaned forward. We request records, communications, financial documents. And Heidi, her eyes locked on mine. Your family is about to learn that transparency is not their ally. The discovery phase felt like watching a slow-motion collision from behind protective glass. Lysandra's paralegal issued subpoenas for the joint bank account, the one I had deposited into with clockwork precision, $2,000 every single month. The account my family treated like a personal ATM. When the statement arrived, Lysandra laid them across the conference table like evidence photos. "Look here," she said, tracing the deposit column, month after month. "Heidi Henderson, $2,000. She flipped the page. "And here, Serafina Henderson, $1,000. $200. Salon charges. Boutique purchases. Alara Henderson, $800. Country club dues. Caspian Henderson, $600. Electronics store." The numbers told a story I'd lived but never articulated. I was the engine. They were along for the ride. "They called you the parasite," Lysandra said quietly. "But the math tells a very different story." My throat tightened. Seeing it all on official letterhead, dates, codes, totals, made it impossible to deny. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't exaggerated. I'd been systematically used. Then came the real bombshell. Lysandra had hired a forensic accountant, Margaret, a soft-spoken woman who looked like someone's grandmother but had the instincts of a hunter. She dug through property records, loans, credit histories. "What we found makes your father's Christmas tantrum look trivial," Margaret said during our meeting. 14 months ago, your father took out a second mortgage on the Henderson property. Amount, $175,000. I blinked. A second mortgage? Why? "According to the paperwork, it was for business investments," Margaret said flatly. "But we found no business. No LLC. No filings. Nothing legitimate." Lysandra leaned back. "Translation? He gambled on some scheme sold by a con artist and lost." "Does my mother know?" I asked. Margaret shook her head. "The title allowed him to sign a loan. He didn't need her consent. The house, they'd lorded over me. The marble counters, the chandelier, the perfect lawn, was drowning in debt. They're underwater," Lysandra said, "and they don't even realize it yet." For months after Christmas Eve, I walked into the county courthouse wearing a navy blazer and my most professional heels. Cream-colored stone, echoing hallways. A place where judgment wasn't metaphorical. My family couldn't afford attorneys. Discovery had drained them, scrambling to respond to subpoenas, justify expenses, explain posts. Retainers started at $15,000. They represented themselves. I spotted them across the gallery. Thaddeus in a wrinkled suit that strained at the seams. Alara clutching a knockoff portfolio. Serafina chewing gum, arms crossed. Caspian scrolling until the bailiff snapped at him. They looked smaller, worn. Lysandra sat beside me, calm and focused. She prepared me, but nothing prepared me for the judge's entrance. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Moreno presiding. Judge Moreno, late 50s, steel-gray hair, an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse imaginable. Case number 24CV8831. Henderson versus Henderson, Henderson, and Henderson. "Are we ready?" "Ready for the plaintiff," Lysandra said. "Ready for defense," my father said, already unsteady. Lysandra dismantled them piece by piece. Bank records, deposits versus withdrawals, then the social media evidence. Caspian's post tagging my employer, calling me a traitor. "Tortious interference," Lysandra explained. "Requires intent." He used her full name. He tagged her workplace. This was deliberate. Then defamation. Group texts, voicemails, emails, every insult preserved. When my father stood, he unraveled. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "Families fight. Did you send this email?" Judge Moreno asked. "Yes, but..." "And did you know it was false?" His composure shattered. She lived under our roof. Was there a written agreement? Silence. Was she ever denied access to funds? Silence. Then the mask slipped. "I'm the victim," he shouted. I raised her. The gavel slammed. "Control yourself or be held in contempt." And then Lysandra played the ace. "Your Honor, Exhibit F." The video filled the screen. Me on my knees, scrubbing. Caspin's voice. Look at Cinderella. Laughter. Silence afterward. This video, Lysandra said softly, was posted Christmas Eve. Judge Moreno's gaze hardened. She was not a daughter, Lysandra concluded. She was unpaid labor. The verdict came 2 weeks later. We won, Lysandra said over the phone. Complete victory. $130,000 in damages. Attorney fees covered. Then came collection. They couldn't pay. So Lysandra filed a lien. And then the bank moved. Foreclosure. 3 missed payments. Panic. They sold the house. $450,000. On a rainy Tuesday in April, my phone buzzed. Closing today at 2 p.m. Wiring instructions submitted. You don't need to be there. I hadn't needed to be, but I wanted to be. Some part of me, the part that scrubbed floors, swallowed insults, and forced gratitude for burnt scraps, needed proof, needed to know it was real. So I drove to the First American Title Company and parked across the street. Sitting in my car as rain streaked the windshield, I watched my parents arrive. Thaddeus moved like a man walking toward a firing squad. Alara clung tightly to his arm. Lysandra later told me exactly what happened inside. She'd heard from the escrow officer, a woman named Brenda, who, apparently, had zero tolerance for financial delusion. Brenda slid the settlement statement across the table to my father. The document was dense. Legal descriptions, columns of numbers, prorated taxes. This is the sale price of the property, Brenda said. Her voice clipped but professional. $450,000. Even buried in debt, Thaddeus's eyes lit up. That number still looked like freedom to him. But Brenda's pen moved downward, tapping line by line. Minus the original mortgage payoff. $200,000. Tap. Minus broker commissions and fees. $27,000. Tap. Minus transfer taxes and recording costs. $8,000. Thaddeus nodded, calculating quickly. There was still money left. Enough, he probably thought, to start over. Maybe a condo. Maybe dignity. Brenda turned the page. Additionally, there's a court order lien filed by Heidi Henderson. We are legally obligated to wire $130,000 directly to her to satisfy the judgment. The color drained from my father's face. And Brenda continued evenly. The prevailing party attorney fees in the amount of $25,000. She paused, then pointed to bottom line. Your net proceeds after all deductions, $60,000. Thaddeus went from red to gray in seconds. His mouth open, closed. Nothing came out. Alara began to cry, soft, broken sobs. This can't be right, Thaddeus finally rasped. There has to be a mistake. Brenda slid a calculator toward him. You're welcome to check the math, Mr. Henderson. But there was no error. $450,000, minus $200,000, minus $27,000, minus $8,000, minus $130,000, minus $25,000, $60,000. The house they'd worshipped. Their proof of superiority. Their throne, reduced to $60,000 and a motel address. I was in a budget meeting when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I ignored it. Professional Heidi didn't check personal notifications at work. But when the meeting ended, I opened my banking app. Wire transfer received. Amount, $155,000. Sender, First American Title Company. I stared at the screen for a full minute. The number didn't disappear. It didn't change. It just sat there, real final mine. Around me, the office buzzed as usual. Phones rang. Keyboards clacked. Someone laughed near the coffee machine. I closed the app, took a breath, and went back to work. That night, alone in my apartment with a mug of chamomile tea, I smiled. This wasn't money given out of love. It wasn't inheritance or charity. It was restitution. Justice with a wire confirmation. They tried to break me, and instead, they financed my freedom. The next morning, I drove to Aunt Rowena and Uncle Silas's house. Wisteria spilled over their fence, purple and fragrant with spring. Rowena opened the door in her gardening apron, dirt on her cheek. Heidi, I wasn't expecting you. Come in. Silas was in the kitchen, assembling a sandwich with engineer-level precision. He looked up and smiled. She's got that look, he told Rowena. Something big happened. I sat at their kitchen table, the same one where I cried months earlier. This time, I wasn't seeking refuge. I slid an envelope across the table. What's this? Rowena asked. $10,000. I said, the loan, plus interest. Silas opened it, eyebrows lifting. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. My voice was calm, certain. You believed in me. This is gratitude. Rowena squeezed my hand, eyes shining. We're so proud of you. Lysandra says you were her easiest client, Silas added. We ate lunch and talked about ordinary things. Gardens, retirement, travel. It felt clean, finished. A year has passed. I'm sitting in my studio apartment, holding hot cocoa and watching December lights glow outside the window. It's small, 500 square feet, but it's mine. The walls are gray because I chose them. The shelves hold my books. The bed has flannel sheets no one will ruin. I don't serve anyone but myself. The settlement money sits in savings, growing quietly. I use some for the down payment. The rest is security. Freedom. I have a retirement account, a working budget, a therapist helping me untangle decades of learned silence. I'm learning what it feels like to be enough. Tomorrow, I'm having lunch with Aunt Rowena. She's making glazed ham and pecan pie. A celebration, she said. 1 year of freedom. So I'll sit at that table again. I'll eat food made with love. And when the pecan pie is served, I'll add vanilla ice cream. Not because I'm allowed to, because I want to. I don't track my family anymore. I built a wall. But news leaks through. Thaddeus lives in a motel now. Alaire divorced him. Serafina and Caspian vanished. I don't feel triumphant. I feel free. I look at my reflection in the window. The girl who scrubbed floors is still part of me, but she's not all of me anymore. Now I'm the woman who spoke up, who fought back, who won. Tomorrow there will be pie, and I'll eat it all, because I'm not anyone's maid anymore. I'm just Heidi, and that is enough.